What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Jammin John.
Necrotic, Nick.
And we are bringing you yet another album review. So we are going to go over the debut full-length album from the band Bleed, with the record titled Bleed. This comes out on the 2nd of May on 20 Buck Spin Records. This band formed in Dallas, Texas, sometime before 2021. This is their first full-length. In 2021, they released an EP titled Somebody's Closer. That's about all I know about this band. They are slated to be 90s alt-rock and metal.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. Just get ready to break out your Jinkos and your chain wallets, because this is new metal-ish. I mean, alt metal is also appropriate. That's kind of a blanket term for bands that sound kind of new metal-ish too. Elements of shoegaze. This is the wildest signing I think this label has had, because 20 Buck Spin, I mean, I would say is among like one of the most consistent labels out there. Like, I look to them like I looked towards like Roadrunner back in the 90s.
100%.
Like, yeah, it's on Roadrunner, I'm gonna get it. And this isn't like the first, kind of off the grid sort of band that 20 Buck Spin has signed. They signed Black Magnet a while ago, which I really like that. It's just flat out industrial metal. This feels far removed from the tone of this label. Whereas like Black Magnet, it's still dark. It's still heavy. It's just industrial heavy. It's like Godflesh. This sounds like a hodgepodge of bands that I still listen to and bands that I have kind of like pushed to the wayside, and maybe every now and then come back to just to remind myself that, yes, at one point I was a fan of this, and no, it doesn't quite hold up. It's more like the more accessible style of nu metal, which nu metal was pretty accessible to begin with. Let's be honest. Most of the nu metal bands were targeted by major labels, and major labels wanted singles, they wanted hooks, and for the most part, they got them with bands like Linkin Park, Deftones, and then like some second-tier bands that labels took chances on, like, Trust Company, which I hadn't thought of until I listened to this album. Same thing with Simon Says, which I know, there we go. Yeah, a lot of people forgot that band existed. And, I mean, rightfully so. Like, look at the first album cover they put out, it's like, man, is this a boy band? But this also has, like, echoes of Helmet, Hum, and I would even say, like, a more modern band like Turnstile. Take all of those bands, kind of whirl it up together, and distill it. This is very one-note. Well, all right, nu metal is kind of what I got from the rip, because the opening track, Climbing Down, has a DJ in it, and he's scratching. He's doing like the DJ Han thing, or DJ Lethal, take your pick. And it's over this kind of nu metal groove, which get used to that. And, well, just nu metal down-picked riffs. And, yeah, no, this sounds like 8 or 9,000 different bands that I was probably listening to back in like 1996 through like 1999.
Yeah, I immediately went back to an era of time that I thought I had erased from my lifetime. We're talking about the spiky blonde hair and the necklace with the little silver balls on it, and the chain wallet, and the Jinko jeans, and the Drain STH t-shirt, and that was me in a nutshell in 1997, 1998.
I still hold on to my chain wallet.
I may or may not still have the silver ball necklace. I haven't worn it in fucking 35 years, but
I mean, it's time to break it out.
It's still there. For me, Climbing Down sounded like the Static X song that's on the Queen of the Damned soundtrack, Cold. It's got that kind of vibe to it.
There's definitely electronic flourishes on here. I know one of the guitarists, which I believe there are 3 listed guitarists on here. And to their credit, the guitars are very dense and very atmospheric. But one of the guitarists, and I believe he is the gentleman that did the production here, which the production here is pretty good.
It's all right.
He's the guy that does a lot of the programming. And in between a lot of these songs, or in transition, you will find moments of like, electronic drums, or where they kind of like shrink down the sound, like going into the first chorus. It has a very Linkin Park sound. Like, it's exactly kind of what I would expect from, like, especially the first 2 Linkin Park albums. Vocally, this kind of goes for the almost like ASMR sort of delivery, like Gino Moreno. Also, again, Trust Company. If you vaguely remember that band. The guy's breathy vocals were kind of a...
So
I know,
long,
it's been
dude.
forever since you even thought of these bands.
Oh.
But yeah, he had kind of like a breathy delivery overall. And this isn't necessarily like super aggressive. Like we were actually having many deep conversations about this. Like with nu metal, there were definitely bands that pushed more towards like metal. Like they weren't really concerned with being like radio favorites or anything like that. Like I'll give credit to like Slipknot, Mudvayne, Dry Kill Logic.
Down the Sun.
Yeah, bands like that, they definitely wanted a heavier sound overall. They favored more the harsh vocals. The riffs were decidedly heavier, even production-wise too. But then you had like that kind of like next tier where they definitely pushed towards radio almost right from the rip, or they kind of made that change a little bit, earlier in their career and kind of pushed for it, like bands like Linkin Park, Papa Roach, I mean...
Stained,
100%.
Yep.
Stuff like that. This kind of falls more in that category where I would say a good chunk of these songs are more rock heavy than they are like metal heavy.
I'm sure that these guys are nice guys. I have no doubt in my mind that they are nice guys. And maybe this is their sound. Maybe this is what they grew up on. And maybe this is what they want to pay, homage to. But even so, it's a watered down version of a lot of bands that have already capitalized on this sound 30 years ago. They're kind of clawing at the Deftones stardom here and not quite hitting the mark.
It's very plain. Like, all right, I understand when I go for like a retroactive sound, like, I know that the nu metal retro thing it's out there. I largely ignore it because I already lived it. But for me with nu metal, all right, there are, again, like some key things to kind of like factor in. Like we already brought the fact that a lot of nu metal was more geared towards like the radio. Like, most of it was way more accessible. You had cleaner choruses and such. Occasionally you had the bands that were like a little bit more harsh and a little bit more metallic. But for the most part, some of them were just rock bands that happened to have like a fucking nose ring or something. But one of the big things, and, again, like there's still nu metal bands and nu metal albums that I like, but nu metal's riff wheelhouse is decidedly small. And I feel like this band took that bass kind of riff wheelhouse for nu metal and shrank it down. Because a lot of this is like the same heavy strumming, the same da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. You know that riff. We've known that riff for years. A lot of the riffs on here, I hate to say it, feel very generic. Like they're not really putting any of their own spin on any of these songs. I would say they're just kind of like adding like a shoegazy atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
Which, it sounds lush. It does sound like dreamy and haunting at points, but it's very static. Like a lot of the songs will lock on to the same groove, the same style of riff, and the same vocal style throughout here, which it gets very repetitive.
Songs like Cynical and Enjoy Your Stay at least bring a little bit different of a dynamic to the table. Like in Cynical, there's a riff variance. For the first time ever on the album, they not only change the riff pattern a little bit, but they even halftime it, which is cool. And like by this point in the game, like we were both wanting something a little different. And then Enjoy Your Stay is decidedly a little bit more upbeat. It's not the same kind of stutter groove that the drummer does. And granted, for as simplistic as most of this is, like the drum grooves are cool. They're all stuck kind of in the same wheelhouse. They're all kind of presented the same. But it's got a real cool stutter groove to it. The guy obviously likes ghost notes. But Enjoy Your Stay is noticeably more upbeat. I wouldn't call it a D beat, but it's definitely like a stuttered D beat almost.
It's like a galloped stomp.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, it did break it up a little bit. The drummer is essentially, kind of following, well, kind of the same riffs on here. I mean, they're even almost all like strummed the same. Like you do get like a little bit of variance in here. The last song, Take It Out, there's some syncopated chugs in there. It's a little bit more hardcore-ish. And you do get like, I guess like a nu metal style breakdown on Enjoy Your Stay. It's probably the heaviest moment on the album. You get more screamed vocals, which there are like screams that are kind of like peppered in here. Like, every now and then after you get past the very drawn out, very reverb and sustained drenched vocals, you'll hear a scream. And like, oh, that's something that would definitely show up on a Linkin Park album. But for the most part, this album really holds its course. And again, this is stuff that, we've been listening to for years. And I mean, I was kind of like going through like all the different bands this sounds like. And my thing is, those bands at that time, you could argue were probably a little bit more groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were doing some different stuff. This feels like a tribute, but it feels, again, very watered down. Like this doesn't push like the nu metal sound any further. Like it just kind of holds its course and just adds a little bit of shoegazy atmosphere, which admittedly doesn't really do much to the songs other than make them sound a little bit bigger than they actually are. Songwriting wise, this is very stripped down. And I like meat and potato stuff, but this is stripped down to the point where there's just not much to the music overall other than a groove and kind of a vocal hook. Like the vocals on here, all right, they're going for that kind of shoegazy delivery. It's very, Chino-ish. But here's the thing. This band wants that big atmosphere that Deftones has. And they also want like those kind of like pop sensibilities in terms of like writing big hooks like Linkin Park. But they never get that to really meld here.
There's nothing on here that I would call catchy other than the fact that the riffs and the melodies are so repetitive that that's how they get stuck in your head. Like there may be a point in time where I found myself humming something, but again, when you got a 4-minute long song that has the same thing over and over and over again, of course you're going to hum it. It's in your brain. That's how they get it in there.
But here's the thing. Were you humming it because it was this song, or were you humming it because it reminded you of another song that sounded like that song?
I was humming it because it reminded me of another song that sounded like another song that I loved, once again, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the song Killing Time, I mean, part of me was like, hey, maybe this is a Head PE cover.
Right?
You know what? I still like Broke. Broke's a fun album. But no, it ended up sounding like, a heavier rock song that immediately just neuters itself to get into a very, very Linkin Park style verse. And then revisit the heavy on the chorus. Like, these are such, like, just stock songwriting dynamics that, again, it really just hampers this album. And, again, there's not enough variance on this album to really stretch out a relatively short runtime. This is only a little bit over 36 minutes, but there's maybe an EP's worth of ideas in here in terms of making the song sound different. Even when it comes down to, like, the extra flourishes that kind of make this sound a little bit bigger, the electronic elements, the DJ that shows up on Climbing Down, which I can't imagine a scenario where $20 Ben would say, wait, does your band have a DJ? And go, yeah, no, that's totally cool. Come on in and we'll sign you immediately. I love that. I just can't picture that in my head, but apparently it happened. But even the electronic elements, they feel kind of stock and sometimes like oddly placed, like Through the Cylinder. The electronic break beats that open that up, it kind of alludes to it being a faster, more aggressive song. Like, you have, like, something that would have been, well, like the beginning of, like, fucking Eyeless.
Yep.
Or, like, a pitch shifter song. But you get into, again, just that lockdown, same groove.
And it's the most generic riff ever.
Yep.
Or like the song Shallow. It's notably different. It doesn't have drums in it. I mean, it does, but it has, like, hand percussion and tribal things. Really, it's Filter's Take My Picture.
It really sounds like
Take my fucking picture. That's what it is.
I mean, it's got pleasant melodies. Again, it's a little bit of a break, being like kind of softer and, I guess like poppier. I don't know. Again, when it comes down to the hooks, it doesn't necessarily, just stay with you again. Or at least for me, just because it reminds me of bands that I used to listen to. And I have to say, like, for this label, this is kind of strange. Like, I did not expect to be going over a band that sounded like this on $20 Ben. Like, this reminded me of, like, when Roadrunner signed Coal Chamber, which I still like Coal Chamber's debut, but it was really different. And that also came to the point where Roadrunner was sacking a lot of their death metal bands. Don't think $20 Ben's going to do that. Because that would be...
I hope not. God, I hope not.
No, 2025 already sucks enough. Don't do that $20 Ben. We love you.
Yep, I have said it out loud a number of times, especially on this channel where I trust anything that comes from $20 Ben. And this to me is kind of like when you could trust things on Roadrunner. Like you pick up a Roadrunner album, you go, yeah, fuck yeah, it's on Roadrunner Records. And the same thing could be said for $20 Ben. On Roadrunner, it's when Nickelback came out, and I was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
And this is kind of that moment for $20 Ben. I really sincerely hope with my entire heart that $20 Ben does not abandon their death metal.
Yeah, I don't
Please.
think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this was a bridge too far. Again, like Black Magnet was different for, what $20 been usually signed, but it still fit the scheme because it was heavy, it was dark, it was visceral, and that's everything on that label.
Yeah.
Except for this. This is bright and sunshiny. I think I watched their music video for Marathon and dude was smiling throughout it. And I was like, man, this is like some dream pop version of a Puddle of Mud song. I'm not on board with this. And again, I really don't want it to come across as we're like absolutely just shitting on this band. But, for me, this is a style that is just very rote, and you really have to do something to it to really make it stand out. Otherwise, it kind of just blends in the pack really easily. Again, a lot of the stuff we go over is, very riff oriented. Of course, like atmosphere and such will show up in there too. But when the riffs aren't there, and again, it's kind of like static overall, like it just becomes kind of like background noise. Like even if this came out while I was really into this, like this came out in like 1997 and I was just a dipshit in my Jinkos and I had like fucking cigarette burns on them. And
I mean, that's me.
Yeah. All that shit. I still probably would have been like, this is okay. And then I would just show someone like, something I saw in like Circus Magazine or Metal Edge or I don't know, whatever was covering new metal at the time. Alternative Press. Yeah, something like that. This just feels, again, like an also ran like new metal band even from back then. So in terms of like capturing that retro fire, reminding people of like, oh man, new metal was pretty cool, I don't think this would do it. So overall, I'm going to give it 2 stars. I thought about giving it a 1.5, but I mean, it's not terrible. It's just dull. Like, it really is. Like, there needs to be more songs that actually jump out. Like, there's a couple in here I thought were pretty decent. Cynical and Enjoy Your Stay in particular. Those songs have some cool dynamics where they actually switch it up a little bit. The melodies actually carry a little bit more. And just like riff work. Like, riff work really it actually changes. It's not just like a steady drone of the same monotonous 90s alt riff over and over again. That was kind of nice. I really appreciated that. But yeah, like a lot of this is just sort of stuck in the same gear, and it's not a particularly interesting gear for me. But who knows? You might really dig this. If you love like a lot of the bands we brought up, I mean, I would especially say Trust Company. If you've never listened to Trust Company, listen to this, then listen to Trust Company's first album or their second album. I think those are all they had. I hate to say it. It's kind of similar to Trapped at points, but I wish this band immensely more success than that fuck nugget. And, Deftones. Deftones are definitely in here, and Helmet. Just check it out for my own opinions. Who knows, you might really dig it. This just was not for me.
I'm also at a 2. It's not bad. 16-year-old me probably would have included this in the rotation along with the Deftones and Helmet and Hum and back when I was into all that stuff. It's not a bad version of that, but it is very bland and there's not really a whole lot going on from song to song to like even differentiate them. Like at this point, you're just filling up time on a full-length record. This album heavily reminds me of a lot of bands that I would listen to, so why would I also cycle this into the pack? There's nothing that really sets this aside from that, other than it's released by a new band. Like, I haven't heard this sound in a very long time as a new band. I've heard it in, again, things I've been listening to for years, but not this. Once again, I'm sure these are nice guys, and you guys definitely continue with what you're doing. We're not telling you to stop making music at all. Like, keep going, do what you do. This just doesn't necessarily jive for me. So, yeah, 2 stars if you're a big fan of the Deftones, for sure. Stained, Hum, Linkin Park, a little bit of Trapped, maybe a little bit of Human Waste Project, stuff along the lines of that, and definitely the new metal era in the 90s. Check this out for yourself.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you were new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They were only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we will probably be doing one after Maryland Death Fest with our exhausted, sore, just completely beaten asses in front of a camera. It'll be rough, but we'll have some stories to tell for sure. Anyway, memberships are the main way to support the channel now. We also still have our store, thrallsofmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below. And of course, there's a join button down there if you would like to become a member and I don't know, listen to us complain about, new metal. That might happen again. Who knows? But yeah, join up. It'll be fun, hopefully.
And if you don't join, that's totally cool too. We're not going to be upset by it. You're just going to miss out on some really extra stupid shit that's not found in our regular streams. Tons of content coming your way, album reviews, discography rankings. We got At the Gates coming up next. We have a new segment that kind of runs in tandem with the discography rankings that we think you guys will find to be pretty enjoyable. All metal all the time. That's what we do here. We do it for you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this channel. It means the absolute world to us to watch this channel continue to grow. Just, we couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.